Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Teed Up, so cheers. Yes, I do actually drink the tea that's next to me. Yes, it is tea in there, it's not vodka or anything else. Was going to drop a video last night before the game, but I figured it would be better actually to wait and have the game to review between the Toronto Raptors and the Orlando Magic, which finished Toronto 110, Orlando 109, and it was for me one of the best games of basketball for a neutral to possibly watch so far this season. The Magic at the end of the game were about 12 points down with 2 minutes to go and pulled it to within one. It was a bit of a strange end of the game because the Magic had the ball in their hands. Um, Jalen Suggs drove the length of the court and the Magic took a timeout. And from my angle when I was watching it, it was surprising because I thought either the timeout would have been called as soon as Suggs got the ball to draw up the play, or were we just going to let him play it through? End result was it was neither. And then there was a great defensive stop by Gary Trent against Cole Anthony right at the end of the game. But it was a fascinating game, and it was being built up a lot around the whole narrative of Scottie Barnes versus Jalen Suggs. So if you followed the NBA draft, Suggs was expected to go pick 4. Barnes was expected to go pick 5. So if things had gone as experts had predicted, Jalen Suggs would have been with the Raptors and Scottie Barnes would have been with the Magic. And what happened was the opposite. The Raptors made the surprise call and took Scottie Barnes, and the Magic then made the no-brainer pick and took Jalen Suggs. And if you saw my season preview video, I did say in that one that I felt this was something that had worked out best for both. I think Barnes has got an incredible upside, and if we look at how Scottie Barnes has started the season with the Raptors, he's been a sensation. And again, Jalen Suggs, as was said in the video, didn't expect him to start the season as a 20 points per game scorer, but did expect to see a fantastic defender. And that is exactly what has happened in playing this hardest position on the court for a rookie. So the game very much had that narrative set around it. Barnes started the game on fire, had an absolutely fantastic first half in particular, and he seemed to take a blow in the eye, I believe, from Franz Wagner, which seemed to slow him down. I don't have Franz Wagner down as a dirty player. I think if it had been Moritz Wagner for the Magic, I might have said something a little bit different. But Franz Wagner, there was the blow in the eye. Barnes didn't seem to come out in the second half totally the same, but did pick up towards the end of the game. But it was a fantastic performance and a great duel watching both. And I'm hoping this narrative of it being a Barnes versus Suggs war that certainly seems to be going on some aspects of Twitter is put to rest. The two are great friends. If I was a Raptors fan, I would be absolutely over the moon with the pick of Scottie Barnes. I think there's the franchise cornerstone for the team going forward from there. Barnes would finish the game with 21 points, 9 rebounds, a block, 2 steals, and assist, going 9 of 14 from the field, which is this stuff the stat sheet performance that we've become accustomed to from Scottie Barnes in the first handful of games this season. And I have said in a previous video, I feel Scottie Barnes' floor, not ceiling, is Draymond Green, and I am willing to stand by that. I think what we're seeing right now is just a start for Scottie Barnes, and I think the Raptors have got themselves a real baller. With the Magic, Suggs, I felt this was his best game yet for Orlando. He finishes with 21 points, 4 assists, a block. He goes 4 of 8 from three-point range. He was shooting deep threes, and he seemed, even at the start of the game when he missed a couple of shots, he seemed to have settled into his shot. And if this is what is to come from Jalen Suggs, then I am excited. I have made the comparison before of Drew Holiday defensively, and if you look at the statistics prior to the game last night, I haven't got that up to date with it, but players shoot something like 10% worse when they're up against Jalen Suggs defending them. And you can see he causes problems. He gets both on the perimeter and on the inside. He is a pest. He is an absolute pest of a defender. And if Suggs continues at this rate, from a defensive standpoint, certainly, you could be looking, same with Drew Holiday, where he's an all-defensive team contender, if not more. I was absolutely delighted with both performances to watch, and it was quite fascinating to see another high-end rookie. But the performances of both were talking points of the game. Obviously, the stat that really counts is Toronto won by 1 point. I felt that was, if either team had won by one or two, I think that would have been fair. It was a back and forth game. I felt that at the end, Orlando had a real shot, and I think possibly if the timeout had been called or if it had just been allowed to play out, would we have got a slightly different score? Who knows? What stood out from watching the Raptors then, I really was impressed with the Raptors bench unit, and I think this is where Orlando right now with the injuries that the Magic have, so playing without Markel Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Chuma Okeke, Michael Carter Williams in particular, it is affecting the depth of Orlando. If you look at the statistics, Orlando's starting unit is actually performing really well, which was the same again today. But the Raptors bench unit really did change things up, and they had the three Bs, or the killer Bs as they should probably be known, of Chris Boucher, Ken Birch, who Orlando fans will know a lot about, and Delano Banton coming off the bench, and they really altered it, and they gave the Raptors this very awkward to play against, just long, mobile, high energy second unit, and it was very, very effective. And again, the Raptors are playing without Pascal Siakam. When he gets back, you've got to say that it does look encouraging from a Raptors standpoint. Certainly looking at that team that was on the floor, OG Anunoby is having a great season. I think that's been expected. I know I brought up a couple of OG top shot moments in anticipation of this. But when you also, I thought Gary Trent Jr. was a brilliant pickup for them. He was somebody I wanted on the Magic. So I was disappointed that we didn't try and make a play there. But he, again, fits very well with this team. Fred VanVleet is Fred VanVleet. And then you're adding Scottie Barnes, you're adding Pascal Siakam, you're adding Precious Achiuwa again. I mentioned in the season preview, low key, very good pickup for the Raptors. And that is a very exciting team. And you know, they should be in or around the playoffs if this season. I think that the very least is the play-in, if not getting higher and maybe even grabbing a seed, because the East seems very open with a lot of strong teams, and Toronto probably the best is yet to come. For the Magic, Wagner again. You know, I'm a big advocate of the Wagner wagon. 10 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal. Stood out when he got this clutch three that really brought Orlando back into the game. You could argue that this was Wagner's worst game for the Magic, but it was still a good game. He played a solid, efficient game. No concerns with Franz Wagner. He just keeps on rolling. Player of the game for me, again, you can see the tribute jersey there. I've gone for the Halloween orange theme today. Is Cole Anthony. The guy is just going from strength to strength this season, and if Cole Anthony keeps this up, he has got to be in and around the most improved player debate. What's happening now, you know, 24 points, 5 of 6 from 3, you know, another, I think it was 5 rebounds, 5 assists, wants the ball in his hands, vocal leader, confident on the court. He's leveled up from last season. This is very encouraging from Cole Anthony, and I think the most encouraging thing for me was there was question marks around Cole's efficiency last year. Fair enough. But he finished the game at a plus 16, and he just stood out as for me, a star player on the floor. He looked comfortable, and he didn't look out of his depth at any point. He looked like a veteran. It felt like it was a veteran playing, when in reality this is a guy just at the start of his second year. Again, when you're looking at the Magic starting lineup, obviously I've commented on Suggs, I've commented on Wagner, commented on Cole, but again, what you look at from the bigs, Wendell Carter Jr., 17 and 12, Mo Bamba, 14, and I think it was something like 16 rebounds in this game. The Magic starting lineup is doing its job, and there are a lot of question marks have got to be put against when the return of Markel Fultz happens, when the return of Jonathan Isaac happens, the return of Chuma Okeke. Great problem to have, but two very young, very capable units that were out on the floor there last night, and it was a great game to watch for the neutral. From a Magic standpoint, I think Cole Anthony was the best player on the floor, but I do think Mo Bamba and Jalen Suggs had fantastic games, Wendell Carter Jr. as well. From a Raptors standpoint, Scottie Barnes really stood out as the game went on. The experience of Fred VanVleet came into play, OG Anunoby. Second half in particular, I was mightily impressed again with what I saw. us Brits are going to root for one of our own. So it brings me back a little bit to Cole Anthony. And you will have seen, you'll probably have picked up that I'm a huge supporter and advocate of Cole Anthony. And in the post game press conference, Cole was asked about, the ball went in his hands. It didn't work out for him. Obviously, Gary Trent got the defensive stop, and he was also asked about Jalen Suggs. And Cole, first of all, showed great leadership, exceptional leadership. Just he even went on Twitter and apologised after a performance. Without that, he would have been nowhere near. But I think there's this maturity, this veteran head on young shoulders of Cole Anthony's fantastic. But he was asked, would you have been motivated? Was Jalen Suggs motivated by the fact that Toronto passed him on? And he turned it on himself and said, well, 14 teams selected ahead of me. Are you telling me there are 14 better second-year players in the NBA than Cole Anthony? Well, Cole, I'll answer that for you. No, there are not. And I'm going to stand by what I said last season, that I felt that Cole Anthony not featuring, at least on the all-rookie second team, was ridiculous. No disrespect to some of the players on there, but personally, I do think Cole Anthony is better than Isaiah Stewart. I have him ahead of Emmanuel Quickly right now. I would have him ahead of Isaac Okoro right now, and I would possibly have him ahead of Jayshawn Tate right now. So, people might come at me in the comments for that, but I think we are seeing the ceiling of Cole Anthony not even being scratched yet. And I think we've seen a leap being taken, and I think we're seeing the form, the leadership, the competitive edge that had Cole Anthony at the start, around about this time, a couple of seasons ago, being talked about as a top 5 lottery pick. And you can totally see why. I think, please, Orlando, if you're watching this, never trade this guy. I think he's brings the intangibles to a winning team, the mentality. This is not a team that's loaded with veterans. It needs big voices, it needs big characters, and you can see that with Cole, even when he's not on the court, how he's encouraging younger teammates, looking after when someone makes a play, he's rallying them up. When things aren't going well, he's talking to them from the side. Great signs. Again, Cole Anthony's been fantastic for the Magic. If we're then looking obviously there's been this narrative around Suggs, Barnes and Wagner that were on the floor last night. You could also see a Banton in there. The NBA has released its rookie ladder. At the top of that is Chris Duarte, and I've got absolutely no issue with that. When you look at Duarte, he's putting up nearly 20 points a game for the Pacers. Something like, I think, nearly 5 rebounds as well. Yes, Duarte is different. He's a 24-year-old rookie, but at the end of the day, he's in there. He's in the starting lineup, and he's impressing. So they've got Duarte at 1, Barnes at 2. We've already covered, no problem. Evan Mobley coming in at 3. Again, when you look at the stats, the comparison, and they make it here on NBA.com, is about Chris Bosh. And I said if he goes anywhere near Chris Bosh, what a pickup for the Cavs. But would he start out like Bosh? Well, Bosh did have a slow start in the league, but when you look at what Mobley's doing, he's putting up 14 points plus and over 8 rebounds a game, and the future's got to be bright when you're looking at this pairing of Mobley, and then look at Garland, and you look at possibly Sexton being around for that as well. It's very exciting if you're a Cavs fan. Jalen Green, who's the favourite with the bookmakers here in the UK, is in 4th place, so he's putting up about 16 a game for the Rockets. Again, can't disagree. And then when we go down, we've got Franz Wagner. You know how big a fan I am of Franz in 5th place. I'm not going to disagree with that. And then the next 6, Davion Mitchell, with the nickname of Off Night because of anyone who plays against him. The write-up was about how great a defender he is, and it's carried over, it's translated into the league. Oklahoma City's Josh Giddey coming in at 7. Again, I think Giddey, a young player, definitely got the size on a team that wants to develop. He's put up near 10 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Again, fantastic for a rookie point guard. Jalen Suggs, we've already covered in there at 8. Yeah, I would have Jalen Suggs in the second half of the top 10. Defensively, it's there. If the shooting clicks in, Suggs could jump into this top 5. Alperen Sengun for the Rockets is in at 9. Again, I cannot disagree with that. I was all over the Magic taking Sengun. is in the draft. I'm obviously pleased we took Wagner, but again, Sengun I think has a future in this league. There's been Nikola Vucevic comparisons. If that comes up, you've got to be a happy Rockets fan. And Jeremiah Robinson Earl in a 10. And again, I'm not going to argue with that. I haven't seen a huge amount of the Thunder, and what I have seen has been more focused around Giddy. But at the end of the day, stats wise, justifies his place on the list, which brings us to where is the number one overall pick? Well, the Magic are playing Detroit tonight, and Detroit are expected. The whispers are that Cade Cunningham will make his debut for the 0-4 Detroit Pistons tonight against the Orlando Magic. So if you needed a reason to look into that game, you've got again two young teams. We've just seen what happened with two young teams last night, but the debut of the number one pick, Cade Cunningham. So it's a game really worth checking into. The Pistons have started the season 0-4. Without Cade Cunningham, I'm not completely surprised at that. I feel Cade will be the difference maker in lifting them away from the worst record this season. But it'll be really interesting to see how he starts if he does play tonight, and especially if he comes up against being guarded by Jalen Suggs, because Suggs is a nightmare for teams, a bit like Davion Mitchell, who seems to be even better at it, where he's just a pest, and he will give Cunningham something to think about if Suggs is the one who picks up that assignment. Other things around the league to have a look at. Patrick Williams picked up a season-ending injury for the Chicago Bulls, dislocated wrist. I think that is a huge blow. I think Williams was a player in the experience lineup the Bulls have, who would bring that youthful energy, maybe he's a defensive presence, etc. And it's interesting to see how that plays out. But I think that is a tremendous blow for the Bulls, who started the season off so well. If you look at the top of the East, the New York Knicks are sitting there right now. You know, well played to the Knicks. They're playing with great energy. Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier have, I think, added a lot to the team. Will they last that high up? Who knows? My one question with the Knicks would be the amount of minutes that Tom Thibodeau, the coach, demands out of his starters, and what impact that's going to have over an 82 game season, particularly when you're looking at maybe older bodies like Kemba Walker. But great start for the Knicks. You've got to be happy with that. The talking point on ESPN, Kel Surprise, is the drama in Hollywood surrounding the LA Lakers, who are currently sitting at 3-3. A lot of talk about what is Russell Westbrook's role in this. I'm going to just say what I've been saying offline when discussing this with friends. Just wait. Just wait and see. The Lakers are one of these teams who've basically turned over their entire roster. Things do not settle overnight. They are figuring it out. Love them or hate them, there is just too much talent on this team for them not to make a run in the Western Conference. Yes, it's a slow start, but when you're bringing in a guy like Westbrook, it alters the game of LeBron James, who is a ball handler. You've got, therefore, how are you going to divide the shots up around these players? Who's going to run the offense? LeBron James has been injured. Now he's going to be healthy again. It's going to be, I feel, as this season goes, a lot of rotation and a lot of figuring things out. And the Lakers will be happy, I would imagine, just to use the season as get a home court advantage for the playoffs, and rotate, have people fresh, have them healthy, and then take their shots from there when the playoffs begin. The Lakers are a built for the playoffs team. Will age catch up to them? We will see, but I don't think it's crisis button in LA, even though it was a real shock. And you've got to root for the underdog when the Thunder bumped them off earlier in the week. And one last thing really to touch on is, as everything changes in the league, one thing really seems to stay the same. The Utah Jazz in the regular season are right now top of the Western Conference. Will this last? Who knows? But I did say that I predict the Jazz will be a higher end top seed in the West. The question mark with the Jazz is how does this translate to the playoffs? Interesting statistic on if you were breaking down players by stats and winning records, Rudy Gobert right now, and it's early in the season, will be the front runner for the MVP. So it speaks volumes, the consistency of the Jazz, the roster they've put together, it's keeping injury free, and I think how that translates into the playoff picture. So my day now, it's just gone 2:30 in the UK. It's been absolutely windy as anything, which explains the hair being all over the place. Not that it's ever great at any point. I'm gonna head off, catch some football, soccer if you're an American watching this, and I hope it's a great weekend. I'll be tuning in tonight at the Magic at Pistons. Hopefully your ball games go great as well. For anyone who's watching, enjoy and happy.